how many of you have ever actually used COFIA or some other form of corpus linguistics? Okay, about half of you. That's good. Nelson, could you put your phone on mute? I think we're getting feedback also. Thanks. Okay.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Could you put your phone on mute, please? Because I think we're getting some feedback on your end. Thanks.
Okay, I'm about to do it.
Okay, thanks, Nelson. We'll do the best we can. Corpus linguistics is a tool. It's a database of a lot of documents. These can be books, they can be articles, they can be pamphlets, they can be letters. The purpose of this corpus is to see how words are used in different senses at a different period in time. For originalists, you should all be familiar with COFIA, the Corpus of Founding Era American English. This is a massive database with over 100,000 texts from the 1760s until the end of the 1790s. James and his former boss, Justice Tom Lee, have done a lot of important work in corpus linguistics. We decided to apply it to one of the most significant originalist opinions in recent years, which was D.C. v. Heller. We didn't walk into this project with any preconceived notions. We have our own opinions about the Second Amendment, but we tried to be as open-minded as possible. We also weren't trying to prove or disprove Scalia or Stevens, so we're not going to say at the end of this, Scalia is right or Stevens is right. Instead, we focused on a few discrete textual inquiries that both Stevens and Scalia disagreed upon in Heller. And we did searches to try to ascertain the meanings of these various words. Specifically, we did searches for 5 queries. Keep and bear arms, that's an entire phrase, that's number 1. Number 2, where the word right appears within 6 words of the word arms. Number 3, the phrase right of the people. Number 4, we search for the lemma of keep. Okay, what's a lemma? Different forms of the word. Keep, keeping, keeps, kept, bear, bearings, bear, etc., right? So the 4th one was we search for the lemma of keep within 6 words of arms. And 5th, we search for the lemma of bear within 6 words of arms. So a few notes at the outset. Corpus linguistics has a lot of power. It's very powerful. Why? It can perform searches that are more robust. In the past, if you were an originalist, you would look at dictionaries. There are lots of problems with dictionaries. There was plagiarism. They might have used the broader sense because it was easier. And very often, it can't give you different ways words were used. Corpus linguistics defeats that in many regards. Another important difference between past research is our research is open. We can post links for you, and you can click on them, and we can post spreadsheets for you, which we will have available. You can check our research. You can look at the exact same corpus we use and say, wow, Blackman and Phillips are all wrong, and allows which you probably will, which allows our data to be contested, which we actually want. Very often, historical work is opaque. It's hard to know where someone got their data from. Here, we can do these things with a lot of open-mindedness, right? We can be very neutral about it. Okay, those are the advantages. There are also some limits. We were at a conference 2 weeks ago at BYU with a bunch of linguists, and they were taking to calling corpus linguistics a science. And that word just rubs the lawyer in me the very wrong way. I think of science as, 2 + 2 = 4, something very discrete. But they use it in a way that it's observing words in nature, and I'll go along with that. But we should be careful to say that this doesn't resolve the originalist inquiry. Corpus linguistics will form part of an originalist inquiry, but not the entirety of it. And there's still other tools, which you all write about on a daily basis, that can be used. So don't think this is some sort of savior, where you punch a few things into the database and, Scalia was right, or Scalia was wrong. That's not what we're going to do. Okay. I want to now walk through the overview of our results. You can go through our graphs, which are in our paper. We don't prove or disprove Heller. What we do is disprove certain hypotheses that Scalia and Stevens relied on. So first, we can disprove one easy hypothesis. The phrase keep and bear arms, or keep arms, does not only mean individual right. The phrase bear arms very often had a military connotation. Okay, but no big deal. No one actually argued that the Second Amendment could only be read to protect an individual right. The second hypothesis is one that Justice Stevens advanced, that the phrase bear arms only had an idiomatic context. Only. Okay. Bear arms was overwhelmingly used in a military context, but not exclusively. Now, how do we weigh those different uses? I think it's actually a good question. Again, we don't rely on the argument that this was only militaristic. Okay. So third, this hypothesis that the phrase keep and bear arms only had an idiomatic military context. We actually show that keep and bear are different concepts. There's keep arms and bear arms. Justice Stevens rejected the idea. He said that keep and bear was like a sandwich. You got to put it all together. But these words were used independently. You can keep arms and you can bear arms. Now again, bear arms was generally collective, but keep arms was used more in an individual context. So how do we deal with this, where you have keep, which is more individualistic, and then bear, which is used more collectively? I think these are tough questions. What makes this even tougher is the phrase keep and bear together was never used. Like we found two instances, right, James? Two instances in the entire corpus where you have the phrase keep and bear sandwiched together. So you're basically pairing together a collective word with an individual word. Again, that doesn't say Scalia or Stevens are right or wrong, but it makes the picture a little bit more hazy. Fourth, in Heller, Justice Stevens wrote that the Second Amendment protects only a single right. Okay, we've disputed this, okay? Now, finally, how do we deal with the right of the people and rights related to arms? We may even have a case with a constitutional implicature, and Professor Solomon pronounced it earlier today, right? Even if bear arms was collective and keep arms was ambiguous, the right to keep and bear arms together could refer more broadly to a right of personal and collective self-defense. And this is how it was used in state constitutions, that you have this phrase that might actually refer to both military and individual. And if that's the case, how does that provide any sort of clear resolution of Heller? It really doesn't. So at bottom, I don't know exactly where this paper leads us. I don't think it'll be particularly helpful to a court because we're basically saying it could be either the collective or the individual. So maybe the upshot to this is that you need other interpretive methodologies to actually resolve a case like D.C. Heller to decide, does the D.C. handgun law violate the Second Amendment? In this case, at least, corpus linguistics doesn't give you the answer. All it can do is tell you what is not the answer, and that, I think, is valuable enough for contribution.